Welcome everyone. This is the Ayer Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, November 10th, 2022. Commissioners in attendance this evening, Mr. George Bacon as member, Ms. Jessica Gino, member clerk, Mr. Mark Phillips, vice chair, myself, John Schmallenberger as chair, Heather Hansen as conservation agent. And Jenna Maya is not with us this evening.
She's here in spirit.
Do we have a confirmation of agenda? Anyone have any changes?
Nope.
No changes? Motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Passes unanimously. The approval of the meeting minutes for October 27th, 2022. Everyone have an opportunity to...
I have them printed here if anybody needs them.
Okay, I read them
Okay.
online, but thank you.
Yep.
Any changes? Comments? Accolades?
Always accolades.
Always. Motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 27th, 2022 is written.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously.
I have to do a batch.
Now is the time for public input. If there is anyone who would like to say something, ask a question, that doesn't relate to things on the agenda this evening, something besides agenda items. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Frank Macklin.
You want to come up and, yeah, grab a chair. Join us and,
It's a quick one.
okay, name and address.
Frank Macklin, 43 Groton Harbor Road.
Good evening.
Evening. I was curious about the signs on Flanagan Pond. They're misspelled.
You want it to be spelled like Fletcher's?
Huh?
You want it to be spelled Fletcher's?
No, you can take the I out of Flanagan.
Right.
There's an I in Flanagan?
Only on those signs.
The blue ones?
Yeah,
Is it G-A-I?
it's Flannangan, correct? The signs have a I-G-A-N.
Wow.
I called a couple of months ago.
That would be
voicemail.
Yeah,
And
and I asked the question. I was, oh no, it's spelled differently from two. Okay.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Teach it to you, or I mentioned
Well,
somebody. They're like, oh no, it's spelled. So I was okay.
That's an easy fix.
Well, I think we're going to officially change the name then.
That might be easier. So you're saying it's Flannana
A.
G-A-N.
All A's, there's no I in it.
No eyes. Huh.
Somewhere along the way, we should have noticed that.
Wow.
We should have, but
That's
Shame
a
on
little
us.
comparison, isn't it?
I never liked spelling ever. But
Well, they went up the same time the Crooked Line went on Main Street. So
Yeah.
The what went up?
The bike lane on Main Street
Oh.
going out.
Yeah.
Well, I
very
think
wavy.
it was sort of in the works. We were thinking of getting them remade anyway. Is that still a possibility?
The
Mark?
QR codes actually work.
Does they work now?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make one more.
Yeah. There's money in the grant to replace them if we
think
need
it's-
to.
Or two
Is it
more.
one more or
There's
two?
There's two.
There's
on
two
that.
sides.
Two.
there's
Yeah.
two.
Two
So
sides.
one on the causeway and one on
Yeah,
the
there's,
by the.
I know there's plenty
res-
of money in
yeah.
there to do that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Somehow or another, it got lost in people paying attention. So
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
No, that's not you, Mark. That's
not-
all of us.
our fault. Any other misspellings?
You're okay with Sandy with an I, right? That's where it's supposed to
Oh boy, thank
be.
you.
Goodness. Interesting, because when you plug in Flanagan Pond, it says Flanagan Pond on Google's.
On the website? We got it right there. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
How did we do that?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Any other public input? Any other embarrassing things that? No? All right, well then hearing none, we will move
that
on.
is worth knowing. Thank you.
Yep. First
Okay.
item this evening, next item is the request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 100-0461. Lot A, 138 Washington Street. And Heather, you have been out to that site?
Yep, I went out met on that site on Friday the 4th. I met with Joseph Levine. He's the contractor, I guess, out there on the site that's doing the subdivision. So the next one too, these are the two standalone houses as you're going up Washington Street, right after the new subdivision road. It's 136 and then 138. The boulders are in place, the grass is growing. They just want to get them, both certificates closed out and done. If they're both built, the houses are still on the market, they haven't closed yet. This will just make a smooth process for them.
Okay. No issues?
No issues. No, it's a very nice, clean site. Even the whole new subdivision. While I was out there, I also walked that whole new subdivision because I hadn't been out there yet, and they just did the binder coat and the paving on the whole street. So both cul-de-sacs and the road going in are all binder coat on them. Erosion controls are still in place and look good. So site's nice and clean.
Good. All right, great.
Are the boulders
Boulders are in place.
all that we requested and kind of spaced? They look spaced a little wider than I kind of remember us asking for.
They do have more boulders on site if it's something that you want them to add some. There's tons, and they're leaving them there to use on site. So if there's something that's missing that you want to try to both neaten them up and tighten it up, I'm sure I can ask Joe to do that.
Yeah, if you could just check.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was a little bit of a point of contention with us on that about making sure that the boulders were spaced appropriately so that people weren't
Okay.
driving, ride on lawnmowers and stuff through it.
Oh, through
Eventually,
there? Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
that whole
I'm trying to
concept.
remember. I looked at them. There's where there's boulders or there's trees, so I don't even know if you could. But
Yeah, I see that in the one picture. It
I'll
looks like it's kind of in between.
I'll double
but-
check that, and if it does look like that, I'll see if we can get something else in there.
Yeah, because I thought we specified like 6 foot, I thought, between
Because
them
there's
roughly.
quite a few boulders still on, further on the subdivision.
Okay.
It wouldn't be anything, I think, to just move one or two over.
Yeah,
if we needed
I mean, they
to.
got the equipment there, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you could just double check
Yeah,
the
I will
the
double
order
check that,
conditions.
yeah.
Thank you.
We're not gonna quibble over 6 feet 6 inches, though, all right?
I'm sorry?
We're not gonna quibble over 6 feet 6 inches, or
No, but I mean, if they're
That's
8 to 10 feet apart,
Yeah.
then it's like, well, it's kind of not what we were looking for. So,
okay.
at least
Alright.
more. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance, DEP file number 100-0461, Lot A, 138 Washington Street? I think with the caveat that the boulders are placed properly. They're 6 feet apart.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Okay, next item this evening is a request for certificate of compliance. DEP file number 100-0462, Lot B, 136 Washington Street. And again, you were there.
I was there, yep.
Everything looks pretty tidy.
Everything looks nice and tight, so yeah, but I will double check those boulders, as Mark mentioned, on that site as well.
Okay,
Like I said, there's plenty in that subdivision road if we need to move any over.
Yeah.
If it's not, the houses haven't sold yet, so it won't be difficult to.
Yeah, because these are the first ones, right?
These are the first two houses, yeah, the 4 duplexes, it's 2 duplexes, the 4 units, those have already sold, but they were outside the office.
Right. Okay.
any discussion? Motion to issue a certificate of compliance, DEP file number 100-0462, Lot B, 136 Washington Street. With, again, the caveat that the boulders are spaced properly.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. All righty. Next item this evening is a discussion. Alternative pond treatments. Susan Tordella, You want to grab a chair?
Here is a summary of my brief research from fellow pond dwellers.
That- yeah.
No. Was it?
So,
Do you want those?
I do.
everybody has one? Yeah. So I lived on the pond about 16 years, and the weed treatment's been going on, what, about 10 or 12? Can't remember. And I don't think it's working. I don't know what your experience is. I would love to see irradiated Chinese carpet. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
Even
Not gonna
though
happen.
some states it's legal. They
Not
eat those
this one.
weeds. They eat those weeds.
Not
They
all
also, they also eat indigenous
Everything else?
plants
Yeah.
as well.
Oh.
So
in
it's
some
not- it's
cases,
not-
Maybe the toes off little children too.
and sometimes they cause algae blooms on their own.
Really.
Yeah, in some cases they have.
So I have
Yeah.
two very good friends who both live on ponds. One of them lives on Spectacle Pond in Littleton, and one of them lives on Bear Hill Pond in Harvard. And they've both been around, like Rob, the first one, number one, Spectacle Pond. Rob Hartz, he's been working on his pond for like 25 years. And they have used chemicals. If you read this, they have used chemicals. But this year they tried something new with C&D underwater. I guess these guys are firefighters normally, and they brought devices that pulled the weeds, roots and all. It took about 5 days. The pond is about the same size as Sandy Pond. Sandy Pond's 75 acres. I can't believe they only charge $400. That just seems, it must be a typo, but it's a pretty good deal. So,
Yeah, I'd like to know about that number, because that's,
Yeah, I know.
they won't even show up for $400.
Yeah.
I know what I'm thinking.
5
of the
days, it
machine.
means that was $80 a day?
Can't be. Yeah, it must have been 4,000, maybe 40,000. I'll have to check with Rob on that.
Okay.
So that's an experiment for this year. TBD. Now, the more interesting one for me is Bruce. And he has been on this since like 2000. And they really researched because they didn't want to use the chemicals. And the thing he said that has done the most is these rain gardens. And Harvard, as you know, they have their municipal buildings clustered. So it was easy to just put in a couple right around there where most of the runoff is that goes into Bear Hill Pond. It's that pond, if you go into Harvard, the library is on the right, it's that pond right there. It's a shallow one too. There's a lot of muck. So he said, he believes, and he did all this research on how to treat weeds. He went to this town's conscom. They didn't believe him. They hired a consultant who said the same thing Bruce had discovered in his research, and said you should pull the weeds once a year and install these rain gardens, also known as stormwater basins, because the weeds become resistant to the chemicals, or other weeds grow in that are resistant to the chemicals, or they go to the bottom. Rob Hartz on Spectral Pond said the weeds go to the bottom and then they lay there and make more problems. So in Harvard, back to Harvard, he said that they pull the weeds and then they had these things. Oh yeah, when we had that horrible algae bloom, Bruce's thought, you're the conscom agent, maybe you know, he believed it could have been caused by, we had that super dry summer, all of a sudden, huge rainstorm. It took all the phosphorus from the cars, the exhaust from the cars landing on the road and the trucks, washed it all into the pond at once. And he thinks that's what caused that bloom. 'Cause I've been there 16, well, really more like 20 years. I've never seen an algae bloom. Now, Jess, you've been there a long time.
Yeah, no.
I've never seen one. You ever seen one on Flanagan's? No.
I've only been there a couple of years.
Ah, okay. So that's his hypothesis. We have one rain garden now on Calvin, right? That the DPW put in. So perhaps instead of putting money into these chemicals that don't work in the long term, and they put more chemicals in our environment, I don't believe that they go away. I just don't believe it. I have a hard time with that. If we maybe started with putting in a rain garden by Sandy Pond, start there.
Where are you proposing?
I don't know, I'm not the expert.
Is it with Sandy Pond, the majority of that's Parks Department. The majority of that is the town beach, and after that, it's already natural vegetation. So to put in a rain garden there, it would have to look into that, and I 100% agree with you. I believe that rain gardens are an alternative to help with these things. Great thing to tell your neighbors to do.
Right.
To put in rain gardens at their houses.
How do I put a rain garden in at my house?
You go to Mass DEP and you just Google search on the Mass State website rain gardens, and they can tell you how to build them. Same thing with rain barrels, they can tell you to build a rain barrel. They'll tell you what plants you need to put in there, how to do one. I can give you some links to some sites from UMass Extension that has information on doing rain gardens.
So
and
me
plants.
alone won't do it. Now, have you ever heard of social marketing? I used to be in the business of social marketing. You wear seatbelts, right? Did you wear seatbelts 30, 40 years ago? No. Okay, Jess, you're an exception. My parents had cars that didn't have seatbelts. That is a result of social marketing. Okay, in condom use, that is a result of social marketing, educating people on the dangers of not using condoms. There are a lot of other examples. Not drinking and driving. My young people's behavior is a lot different than I would say the baby boomer generation. I'm not naming any names here, but
Not pointing any fingers?
no,
at
I'm
anyone?
not. But it's called social marketing, and we need a campaign in Ayer to educate people. And Alan is good at this, Alan Minoyan. He knows how to get the word out, and it's not on Facebook because they'll just. You've experienced that here for some meetings when it gets out on Facebook and it gets misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
So we ought to consider that education.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and make it a thing, have some meetings, give some door prizes, I don't know, whatever motivates people. So, let's see, maybe you all, then Bruce also said the law that someone had cited wasn't the right law. He thought that that's the last thing on page 2, section 65A. He says that people aren't supposed to use phosphorus in the state unless they have a new lawn. And he dug up this law. And, we could try and enforce that more. But he doesn't think that, what?
We can't.
You can. Who would enforce it?
That would be the state, and the state hasn't done much of that. We passed a fertilizer bylaw
I remember.
Yeah.
to try to be able for educational purpose mostly.
Social marketing, right.
And it passed at town meeting, which was surprising, but good for you all. And then it didn't pass at the state level. They already have this on the books, so they're not going to let us do it too. So there's nothing that we can do.
Well, Bruce says here, what about with retailers? You limit it that they can't sell it, or if you catch the lawn fertilizer companies in action? I mean, who enforces that? The highway department? Who enforced our water ban?
DEP, I guess.
No,
Or
it was
DPW.
town, it was the town highway
DPW.
department.
Yeah.
It was-
The water ban was supposed to be any and all town employees could do that, but.
Yeah, I reported a few
Yeah.
people, and supposedly the highway department went out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could make a request to local distributors to
Yeah.
ask them.
Yeah, we managed to send
But-
letters out to those that live on the ponds too. I
Yeah.
have no problem doing things like that. Unfortunately, sometimes it's the best thing we can do.
Well, again, it's social marketing.
Yeah.
Maybe have some meetings, read some books on it, make it more of a culture. Like, you go into Cambridge, it's a cultural thing to ride your bike everywhere. They're not odd like me, but, there'd be a bunch of bikes out there. So if we start thinking differently about this and encouraging other people to think differently about it.
Yep.
But what about can the town put some of these water gardens in? And I couldn't find in the town report what we spent on the weed removal last year. I only found the line item for Conscom on page
It
112.
was probably less than what we had budgeted for because we
Yeah.
couldn't do the last treatment on Sandy Pond because of the bloom.
Oh, yeah.
So I
believe. but
I'm not quite sure, it's like
Was it 20 or 30?
25,
About
Between 20 and
24
30.
25.
$25,000.
What if we rolled that money over to help people build rain gardens?
Oh,
And it's on private property.
it's on private property,
Is
that's
there-
a tricky thing that we can't do.
Is there public property on Sandy Pond?
Yes, it is, you have the town beach
Just
there.
the beach.
Yeah.
That's the
Very
thing.
What
we leave
about
it.
once you go over the bridge, those little strips of land right there?
Well, there's no room there to put in
Yeah,
a ring.
I have no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
the one I saw looked like the stormwater basin in on
Yeah, rain
Calvin.
gardens are a
Yep.
little bit different than a stormwater basin. What you're saying, a stormwater basin, when some people who actually, those are different than what a rain garden is. Stormwater basins are typically these big detention ponds that are
Right.
dug with grass. A rain garden is actually, it looks like a flower bed.
Okay,
And those plants are there for a specific reason to take want to take those chemicals, those phosphorus, those nitrogens and stuff out of the water, and they filter everything in, and then it slowly filtrates it. It's definitely an item that we would like to look at, but as far as putting those around Sandy Pond, I mean, I can definitely look into that on
Right.
town property, which I
Right.
have to work with the Parks Department, because that is their plan, and ask them
Right.
and figure out about that. The rest of it, again, you have very good concerns about this, and I appreciate that. Get your neighbors involved, have them look
One
into
of-
these things,
one
and
yeah.
look at having them put in these items on their property. The more lawn, the less disturbance, the less, if you, especially on where you have your driveways, if around a driveway, if we're putting crushed stone around or a rain garden around that, then you're filtrating everything that's on your driveway before it even goes into your lawn.
okay.
And items like that, these are all things you can do. Have any questions, gladly help you research
Right.
these
See, we
things,
need a
find
little
items for
brochure, a
you.
little one sheet.
Yeah, and again, I just took this position over in June,
Get
and I
to
already
work, Heather.
and I already drafted one, and I have to go through and add a couple graphics to it, and
Yeah.
that's gonna get put out. And same thing with working on other policies and stuff. These are all items that and I thank you for putting these to me. I would love to work.
How many hours a week do you work?
I work 40 hours a week. I was on
Full
vacation
time
this
now.
past week. Yeah, full
Full
time.
time.
So
Used to be
these are all
part-time.
items I would love to get going on,
Okay.
and thank you for bringing it to our attention. And I reached out to Rob to get an idea of this, to get a contact at that company he spoke at, and his research that he had about, they did soil testing
Right.
under the water. I don't know if it was him or Bruce that said that. So
Yeah.
I reached out to UMass Extension. They don't do it for municipalities. They won't do that testing for a town. They do it for nonprofits, which is like Clean Lakes Committee. They won't do it for the town. So I was like, oh, well, there goes that, because that's what they did. They tested the soil, because I don't want to go through and hand pull if there's chemicals stored under the water, because then now we're
Disrupt.
releasing that. So we'd have to do that soil testing before we could pull those.
So what if we had a Sandy Pond Association?
So that's what we'd have to work at. And this is great to start this discussion, but these are, I did what research I could do
Yeah.
quickly before, and that's what I found out from UMass, is that that they used, I think it was in Littleton or whatever, because it was the Clean Lakes Commission, it wasn't the town. UMass won't work for won't do work
So
for
maybe if we had a
municipalities.
pond committee for the whole town.
Then that's what something
Pond
I'd like to do, a Clean
association.
Lake, like Littleton does, a
Pond
Clean Lakes
associ-
Commission, to have something where
It's
there's
an
the citizens that are
association.
doing these items as well.
We'd have to get registered as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I
It's
think
not
you'd
that
have to
hard.
coordinate with the town manager's office
Mhm.
too. But what about that pond and dam committee?
I've been on it 5 years, it's never met. I met with Dan about it a month or two ago, and he said he might want to incorporate it into the sustainability committee, but I haven't heard anything. Is that a
Why-
good idea or not?
Why has it never met?
Nothing to talk about.
No leader? I mean, nobody,
Nobody appointed me leader. I had other things on my plate. I don't know, it's a good question. I'm the
Yeah.
only one left who's still appointed. I don't remember being sworn in. Because I got sworn in for the Cultural Commission and for the Cemetery Commission. By the way, side note, one of my goals is to have green burial, so I don't know if you all will be in on that or not. Probably, if you're familiar with that. Social marketing.
Yeah.
So one other thing, my neighbor is here, one of my neighbors, and we live on this boat basin between, I don't know if Jess, you might know, it's on,
The corner,
yeah, it kind of leads into Wright Road.
the northwest
And it's
corner.
gradually filling in, but is that town property, or does somebody own that? They call it a boat, I don't know, could you look into that? Because
I
they're,
mean, and the
it's-
census records are available for you to look at too online.
it's
Yeah.
filling in. It used to be more of a stream, and now
So-
it's filling in.
Yeah.
yeah, this is information that you can find? online. We don't want to be putting a lot more work on Heather's plate. She's busy.
Well, I don't want to see the weed treatment happen again come next summer.
Well, we had a report that came through, and as part of the chemical retreatment, they do check the oxygen level of the
Yeah.
pond to ensure that it's not being affected by the treatment and there hasn't been any issue.
So they're testing it
They are,
themselves?
they're testing it. So just, we are doing what we can.
Mhm. Do we think it's working? I know, Jess, what do you think? You
I think it's
working?
been working.
I think it
I
was,
don't love chemicals, but, you know, where things were before we started a regular treatment program,
you can see satellite photos of
it was
Flanagan's.
bad. Yeah.
Flanagan's looked pretty
And-
bad this summer and last summer. It seemed like there was a
Oh,
lot of weeds out
It
there.
did not look bad at all. This looked as good as I can remember this year. I live on it. I see it every day.
So you think the weed treatment works also, the chemicals?
It does work, but it is chemicals, but it does work. we
Weeds
do the
become
bare
immune
minimum.
to them.
Hmm?
Weeds become resistant to them and the non-resistant weeds grow.
Well, I think we have looked into mechanical removal, and it's just prohibitively expensive. It's wildly expensive, from my recollection.
Yeah, very small bit, huge price,
Yeah.
which we don't have the money for.
Well, I don't
You
know
don't
how
need to do that in Sandy Pond anyway. You don't need to. It doesn't have that much weeds in the pond, does it?
Most of our treatment is done on Flanagan from a
Yeah.
cost perspective. That's the
Yeah.
larger
Yeah.
portion of
Right.
it, right?
Sandy Pond, we've got the fanwort and milfoil and the curly leaf pondweed in pretty good control now. And they're only doing spot treatments. They're not doing whole pond treatments.
And when
Which
we get
is-
our year-end report from Water and Wetlands, who does the weed treatments, Joe Arno is going to give us some information on the blue-green algae and how to deal with that stuff, because it was
Which,
pretty.
the algae bloom?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, because you know as well as I do what drives that.
yeah, and it's becoming more and more common on
Yeah.
different water bodies throughout the
Yep.
state.
So you're saying the phosphorus drives it from the
I'm
cars?
saying humans drive it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I
It's
think
heat,
Joe,
lack of water, and,
and I think Joe said also for phosphorus.
Yep,
He's offered, and maybe this coming spring would be a good time, to do an educational session open to the town that's just on pond.
yeah, I think that would be,
That would be great too.
Who is this? He,
Water and Wetlands, Joe Honorato, they've done the treatment the last 2 years. It's a local group, and they're very community oriented. They've been very good to work with. And we have talked in the past about doing having them do an educational public meeting. But with the pandemic, that's been a little bit hard, but
I guess I'm curious why Harvard and Littleton are avoiding the chemical treatments, and we're not.
you gotta get more money.
yeah.
We're a pretty flush town.
Well, with someone who used to work in Littleton, the Clean Lakes Committee is actually heavily funded by the Electric and Water Department, which is a complete different entity from the town. It's a separate entity, it's not a town. So, yeah, the town bars used to borrow money from them, so.
Did you work for Savas?
No, I worked for I was there with Conservation Commission in Littleton, so I met with them a few times, but, so, I will do my best to reach out again. So I did email Rob on Friday before I was on vacation, and as much as they don't like it, I check my emails while I'm on vacation, and I hadn't gotten anything back. And I will reach out again, and I will reach out to Bruce as well, and see if I can get information. And I can reach out to the conservation agent in Harvard too to see what they are working on, and look at items as well, and see if I can get a hold of the C&D underwater out of Connecticut, just to get an idea of their costs and what they've done. As far as drawdowns go, as part of, I know a lot of the treatments they do in Littleton, they do a lot of drawdown.
That's what Harvard does too.
Yeah, they
on
do,
their-
they do drawdowns to bring the water level down to kill out the weeds. And the issue with some of that here is every single pond is connected. We draw down Sandy Pond, Flanagan, we draw down Flanagan, and it just keeps going and everything ends up in Grove. And so we have to look at, if we're gonna draw those down, how it's gonna affect everything else along the way.
Well, we do draw it down as much as we can,
Yeah.
which I meant to remind you. Now it's after November.
yeah,
You have to take the boards out
Yeah.
at Balch Pond.
yeah.
But that, we take the 2 boards out, the fire department does.
Yeah.
And that's as far down as we can draw it.
Well, you're
Yeah.
treating Flanagan's, it's privately owned. You're treating privately owned land.
Some of it. Some of it is, yep.
Well, but, there are other reasons to treat it.
I thought it was all privately owned.
Not all of it.
No, there's a section down by the causeway, fairly good section down by the causeway that's privately owned. There's a few houses whose property extends into the pond a little bit. Again, that's by the causeway end, I think only. And the rest of it,
Yeah.
Which is what they
is-
have a lot in Littleton. A lot of the lakes in Littleton, and people's property line goes out into the lake, which is why they have their Clean Lakes Committee, because it is privately owned.
So one thing would be trying to emulate Littleton and
Yeah.
get a
Oh,
Clean
yeah.
Lakes Committee going again.
Oh, love
like
that.
a Ponds Committee. Because we've been outstretched for a number of years. We're just hitting a quiet time. Which,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
Taking
as
a breath.
volunteer board, we're taking a breath. And Heather's new but busy.
Trying.
So it'd be great to have other volunteer help.
Well, Susan, you live on the pond and you know people on the pond and you seem to be pretty passionate about this. So I'm proposing that perhaps you could be involved with this as well as an educational,
It would, have you tried to get volunteers in this town?
I'm a volunteer.
Yep, and we're the volunteers that are
You're
getting burned.
5-star volunteers.
Yes, and we're getting burned out. We've been burned out.
How
so,
about George? How long you been on George?
More than 20.
Yeah. So, yeah, we did get a wetlands bylaw passed a few years ago. We tried on the fertilizer bylaw.
That was a
Okay.
start.
We'll work on it.
We'll work
We'll
on it.
definitely put this on the radar as something to start looking into and look at, see if we
Yeah.
can get a Clean Lakes Committee or whatever this, I mean, I'll get a hold
But
of Dan
it-
too about the, as it said, Lakes and Dam that he wants to put under the Sustainability Committee. I'll talk to him about that as well. All these things are I hear about for the first time sometimes at these
Mhm.
meetings. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Well, what if I asked Bruce to come tonight, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
And Rob, I didn't. I thought Bruce had more information. But I can find out from Rob what this costs. And one of my hesitations right now, it doesn't seem like you're in favor. It seems like you're saying chemicals work, let's keep going.
I don't think anyone said that.
I think it's more or
tonight.
less, that's what we're going to be using.
Yeah.
And if we don't have the time before the next treatment needs to go through to look into an alternative, we'll use that again. But this is definitely something on the radar that we want to look into and research more.
And you're saying drawdowns are tricky.
I think with that situation, it is just because of the connectivity of all the other ones. I just don't know what that would do to water levels and
And it-
affect.
And
You
it's
can't-
also drawn down every fall to the maximum we can.
You'd have
Yeah.
to blow a dam otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you want to spend $1 million.
No, I'll talk to the beavers.
They're gonna build them.
Well, no, the beavers won't help. They'll make it worse.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it right
But you
out
can't
there.
touch what the beavers do. Maybe I convince them to take it down.
I don't think any of us here are
Yeah.
thrilled about chemicals, but also, it doesn't take long at all, with no treatment, for them to get choked out. Flanagans especially get choked out and just become a mosquito breeding ground. And
In previous commission members with a little bit more knowledge upon that, looked into it, kind of reviewed what we had done over multiple years. When we skipped years, as John indicated, the weeds got that much worse. And so, we've tried to get it to a point where it's pretty manageable. We're trying to use as little amount of chemicals and also spend as little amount of money as possible, but to keep it under control. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But I think as Heather said, there's some things we can look into, but it is tricky with, it just being private properties and things like that are what's connected to the pond. Again, we put out flyers with regards to, what was the Girl Scout thing, right? So we put that across all
She
around
was
the pond, right?
amazing. She was amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that kind of stuff that's out there, but, are people listening? Are they doing it? Like you said,
People want a
30
certain.
years from now, yeah, maybe they'll have seatbelts and no phosphorus too, but
They
we'll
want
see.
people want a certain lawn. We've had some new houses go in, big new houses. Look at their lawns.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
been fed something
Oh,
special.
yeah. I don't feed my lawn anything, but
Me
it's a
neither.
multifamily soil retention team.
There you go.
Yeah. me neither.
Plantain, crabgrass, grass, whatever,
Yeah.
clover.
Deborah,
had
do you
a
want to add anything?
No, I know that when we first moved in 2 years ago, we had our contractor put down a new lawn. It was really skinny. I remember I called and talked with Bonnie and asked what I could put down. Could I put down corn gluten, for example, natural product? And she checked into that and said, fine. I've used it once or twice and haven't used it and didn't need it. But as far as a rain garden, I don't do anything behind the posts that are put up by the Conservation Commission, which is closer to
She's
the
in the
water.
new house on
Yeah.
Snake Hill.
So I couldn't,
Oh.
I don't think, put in a rain garden next to the pond. But I do hear about the crushed soil along your driveway and along your lawn, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So I do think there are some opportunities here for our neighbors to do
Yeah.
something simple
Yeah.
with some information.
Yeah, I can definitely
Yeah.
look into trying to draft something, flyer up or letter up, over the course. It makes sense, unfortunately, I apologize. We're not in a growing season anyway, so we're not in a rush to plant
Right.
these. No,
But
but
now
I
I'm
can try to
just-
get something, out to some of the areas if, the commission agrees to do that and look over it and get something out to the neighbors around the ponds and stuff. It says, to try to help with, any sort of recharge areas into the pond to do, look into alternative measures and
Well,
X, Y, Z.
and have a meeting or something, or go on air public TV. What about at the Sandy Pond parking lot? Is there crushed stone around that?
There is lawn on that side, so again, this is something that
There's
could
a
need to be
start,
looked at and,
right
yeah, and
there.
work with the Parks Department. Yes, and again, this
Should I
is-
go visit the parks? Department?
Yep.
You can most certainly do that, and also check with the, DPW, they have their parking lots and stuff for their pumping stations, see what they're doing around there.
There's publicly owned property.
Yeah, those are all owned by the DPW, check in with them.
There's a nice rain garden at Grove Pond.
There is, they have some rain garden, yeah, there is some
I
rain
think there
garden
just
there.
needs to be, again, educational,
Yeah.
an opportunity for people to learn about this stuff, to see some that are in
Yeah.
action, and to hear about the benefits.
Yep. Which
How,
is
like,
something
how
that we can
deep is
work
the stone and how far do I go around my
That's
driveway?
something I have to research
Okay.
it for you and
I
look it
could-
up. I
have-
know these
I have a
items.
computer. I have a
know these
computer.
items work. The 100% details of just
All right,
construction that I don't
what's
know.
it called? What are my search terms?
Oh, so if you go to the mass.gov, go
Yeah.
go search for Department of Environmental Protection, or even
Yeah.
in mass.gov and just search rain gardens. You might get some research from there. If not, I don't know if UMass Extension. They are the company. They are part of UMass that they usually work with more nonprofits, but you can search their website and they have multiples of items you can look for. If you want to look for drought-resistant plants, you go to UMass Extension. Just search that. You want to know what carbon capture looks like in forests. You can
But you're saying the
through that.
DEP
Yeah, DEP,
For-
Department
has-
of Environmental Protection,
has,
should
would
have.
have the information.
Yeah.
If not, you said the extension?
Yeah, UMass Extension, they might have something on
UMass
there.
Amherst?
If you don't find anything from them, just shoot me
Try
an
the,
email and I'll look and see what I can find for
All
it.
right.
Try the University of New Hampshire, they have a program up there on rain gardens.
UNH?
Yeah, UNH
just
probably
the
does. I
whole-
always forget to check UNH.
Okay.
Was that a rain garden that was put in up on Oak Ridge in Western Ave?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Was the town-
it. That's it.
Was the town
I
involved?
think it was the town.
Town involved in that?
Do they own that little corner?
They had to.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I read the sign. I thought it said that it was a
Right, that's
DPW.
what I remember reading. I thought that's what the
No,
sign
it's
said. And I
DP
thought the town was involved when it was putting it up, and I was
Mhm.
So,
It's a DPW thing, I thought too.
Yep.
Big explanation, expensive sign, I hope they spelled everything right.
Yeah, trust these people, I don't know.
It'd be nice to know how much it cost to build too.
And I think one of the nice things is too is the DPW director, the one that we have now, he's very into
Proactive,
these things.
yeah.
So, you know, he's brought some of these sites, you know, some of these options up and things too that,
Yeah.
you know, he's trying out. So, you know, you could see some stuff over the next few years. I can't speak for him, but like I said, my assumption is that he's going in that direction and
So
when he can.
Do you all think a pond committee should be separate from a sustainability committee?
Don't know.
I don't, yeah, I don't know the
What's
details
a
of what's,
sustainability
yeah.
committee do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps chemicals out of the environment for
No.
starters.
Yeah, okay, okay.
It's like multiple
Can they
things,
come by
depending on
and
which
take
town
care
you
of
look
my
at.
Japanese knotweed and stuff?
Do you have that?
Is Bob Hartz, is he the fellow who used to be with Geosyntec Consultants? That's a
No.
different,
Rob Hartz is a management consultant.
okay.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you invited me to open this discussion. I hope you're open to alternative ways of doing it. I mean, if you have to draw, it sounds like a drawdown is a deal breaker.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess I don't know if it's
Okay.
gonna be possible.
It's not possible.
Whatever we do though, we have to go before the town and
Yeah.
ask for the money. And if it's an exorbitant amount,
Mm.
I mean, we got pushback a little bit last year for pond treatment. People saying that,
Yeah.
which is like why we did the fertilizer bylaws, because, well, you know what, you're right. We're just treating it instead of trying to prevent it. So we tried to prevent it.
So you're saying people were complaining about the line item to pay for the weed treatment?
Yep.
I didn't put you on the spot, Tom, meeting. I came here.
You can put me on the spot, I don't care. It's
I'd rather work with you than against you.
it's not working against me.
You're a pond owner, you know, you live right on the pond.
Yeah. You
And
see
I-
my yard?
There's no yard there. That's just land.
No fertilizer.
That's right.
I like it.
I like it too.
Even if we had successfully passed the fertilizer bylaw, the issue that was going to be hard to resolve was enforcement.
Yeah. We have no teeth.
We don't really have the teeth. We don't have enforcement capability. A lot of it relies on neighbors snitching on other neighbors.
And
And it'd be
then
no
how do you
different
prove
than
it?
Yeah.
the watering too, because
Well, then
people
you
will
can't-
argue that, I don't care, I'll
Well,
fine me as much as you want. It will cost me less to pay the fines than to reestablish my
And then
lawn.
it's a matter of how you prove it.
Did your lawn come back? My lawn came back. I couldn't believe it.
I was amazed how fast
I got
mine came back.
crabgrass, so I don't know.
It's hardy.
Nothing
It's
kills
hardy.
that.
I had fewer weeds this year because of the starvation, but the grass came back. I was shocked. I don't want to take up more of your time.
We appreciate that you came in and
Well,
discussed this.
I've been meaning to do it for like 5 years.
Thank you for preparing
come
this
back more than
too for
once.
me. I'll go over it and look into it.
What'd you
And
say,
it's
John?
definitely stuff that I had
Yeah.
never, never
back
gotten
more than
into,
once.
so this is.
Sure.
Just say that.
What?
The other thing I'd say is just that, like Heather, you have an interest in researching this more.
Yeah.
But we're coming up on next month, where we do have to start thinking about next year's treatment program. So I wouldn't expect we'd be able to change things this coming year.
I don't.
For the coming year, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Did it seem like Rob had to draw down? You can't even draw down for like 5 days?
We draw down as much as physically as possible. The only way you could draw down more would be to bomb the
dam.
was it East Main Street spillway.
Say that again, I didn't follow.
The only
that.
way to draw down more would be to take apart the Balch Dam, the East Main Street spillway. There's no, I mean, that would be,
Yeah.
how much does it cost to take apart a dam? That
Oh,
would flood
they
the downtown.
they just did one in Pepperell. It took them 6 years of permitting because it has to go through different state and federal levels,
Yeah.
and I think it cost them somewhere around $60,000 to $70,000.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's physically impossible to take it
Physically,
lower?
right.
It was
There is-
pretty low this summer with no rain.
Right, but we can't take it lower than
Okay.
that.
Well,
You know,
let me-
and as I read this, I think I understand the 400. The 400 was to just haul away the 100 tons of material that were taken out by Dirt Doctor and Acton. I think that's what the 400 is about. But it doesn't say what CD Underwater out of Connecticut charged to pull the weeds.
Oh,
And that's
good
the-
reading.
That's the mechanical pulling that we had asked about, which was, again, extremely cost prohibitive to do, what was it, like 10 square yards? What
It was,
cost?
it was like nothing.
Yeah,
teeny little patch, which if you leave it surrounded by the invasives we have, they're going to explode even more.
right.
And it doesn't, it clears away material, doesn't prevent the weeds from coming back.
I'm gonna sneak some carp in.
You're on
Please-
camera.
please
You're on
don't.
camera right now.
Just recorded, so,
Did you never see
I don't think I would
Jurassic
do
Park?
that.
yeah,
Jurassic Park, nothing stays sterile.
yeah. Can I tell you about, bittersweet and Japanese knotweed and,
I
and what
pulled
that
out
has
bittersweet.
done? And
Yeah.
how it's ripping trees down in my neighborhood? It's like ridiculous.
Where do you live?
Mountain Laurel. Yeah. So-
Yeah, I pulled out the bittersweet. It's
Do you
horrible.
have anything to add, Dennis? I just
I
think this
keep
is
pulling.
how
It keeps coming back.
a great opportunity
Oh.
for education. If
Yeah.
you've not seen it before,
Yeah.
because of this,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got me woken up.
Yeah.
Looking out at that green water. Is it clear yet? Can you go in?
I think they've gone out and the Board of Health had gone out and looked at it and noticed that it had gotten noticeably clearer, but I don't believe the state has issued the all clear on it yet.
It looked green, I think, yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
And what, does it go away once we have an ice across the lake? Or
Somebody,
Yeah, really.
yeah, it should go away on its
Do you have
own.
anything to add?
I thought that, I thought I'd heard that maybe it was below reportable levels now. So it's 70,000 cells per milliliter,
Yeah.
and I think it was now below that,
It's below
which
that.
doesn't mean it's gone, but it's just below public health advisory level.
It doesn't look like pea soup anymore.
No, it
Did
was
you get
pretty.
it in Flanagan's?
Mm-mm.
No, yeah,
That's
it was-
odd.
No.
yeah, I thought it was, I was questioning that too, but yeah, it
I
never
don't
made
know
it.
how that did that, or how it did not do
It's
that.
only that far that has to,
Well,
there's that
but,
much. The connection's only that deep.
but with the
Still.
drought, wasn't flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that could be an issue.
But why didn't you get the algae bloom?
Probably the weeds kept it away.
Yeah,
Maybe there wasn't enough phosphorus there.
Well, no, but if we have a severe drought and the water's not flowing from pond to pond,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get it, because of the drought, you're
Yeah.
not gonna get big
I don't think it
spread.
ever stopped flowing. I never saw it stop completely.
It got pretty slow.
Yeah,
It definitely was
Like
low,
it was, yeah.
but like
But
there's
I
always,
think there,
yeah.
there wasn't phosphorus. Sandy Pond must have more phosphorus. Let's get the trucks off that road. The big ones.
Great, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, is it because they can't make that turn onto 110? So if they come to the schoolhouse.
Trucks off of Sandy Pond Road,
Yeah, the big ones.
Yeah, they make it. Trust me, they wake me up all day.
Well, would that help, I wonder? Are they big polluters?
I don't know.
Only biking on Sandy Pond Road
At the speed they're, okay, let's put a sidewalk in first, then we'll worry about that.
or
But-
bike lane.
But
Yeah,
I think,
Well-
we all, big trucks are obnoxious as all get out. On the other hand, all the goods we all buy, rely on, are
And
transported.
I have driven my car along Sandy Pond Road before and put phosphorus into pond, so. All right, well, thank you for being
Okay.
open, receptive. Let's see what our next steps are. I'll check back on some of these and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
Okay,
we
So
appreciate
we'll work
that.
on something too.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thanks.
thanks a bunch, see ya.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to chime in on the
on the-
alternative pond treatments? Any other ideas? Negative? Okay, then we'll move on.
We just pave them over.
Hmm?
We just pave them over.
Just
We're
pave
not worried
them.
about treating anything.
There you go.
Pave the ponds?
Sure.
Yeah. But I think if we do try to get Joe Ornato to, up on his offer to
Yeah.
do,
Oh, yeah,
that would be good
Yeah,
this
that
spring.
would be really good, yeah, before the treatment start again,
Yeah.
that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
When was Fletcher's Pond created? Do you know definitively?
I know. They wanted to get
No, when?
That's in our.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. The research I've done on Fletcher's has it just about 100 years ago when it became a place to keep logs.
Okay. And there's no, I was just curious, because
No,
I,
go ahead.
It's in our
I
sign
know.
description.
I was just gonna say, didn't you get that from,
Yeah.
what's her name?
I just can't remember it.
Or was it her-
And
it was
we
her
recently changed the
dad?
name officially to Flanagan's.
officially,
With no I.
how do you spell that?
F-L-A-N-A-G-A-N or whatever. No, having spoken to the unofficial historian of the town and also our town, Alan, our town crier, if you will, Fletcher's was the name of the people who owned, Erskine and Fletcher's owned property there.
Yep.
But my understanding is people would say, we're going to Flanagan's to rent a canoe. So Flanagan's became a name of use, actually. So, and we recently redid the zoning map, and we kind of caved having it called Flanagan's. But it was the Erskine family, I guess, owned a paper mill, and they stored logs in the pond roughly 100 years ago. And that's more or less, I guess that was, when we moved to town 8 years ago, about 100 years, maybe 100 and a few years now.
Yeah, it was, the dam was, the area around Flanagan Pond was purchased by Calvin Fletcher in the mid-1800s. The dam was then constructed to provide power for his sawmill. And then eventually...
It took a while to flood.
Yeah. The ice house, there was an ice house there that was destroyed by fire in 1885. A clubhouse was built. This was when it changed its name to, some people changed its name to Flanagan's. But yeah, around 1900-ish.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item this evening is a discussion on Ayer Pocket Forest Project. Jim Newman.
I brought a friend.
Excellent. Please grab another chair.
Grab another chair. It's the one that says Pocket Forest.
So if you could just please state your name, company.
Certainly.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jim Newman, a principal at Lenan Solutions. I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I am with...
Hello, Casey Lee Bastian. I'm a landscape architect with the BSC Group, resident of Marlborough, and working together on the Ayer Pocket Forest, amongst other.
What's your name again?
It's a cruel inheritance. Casey Lee.
And I do the minutes.
Hyphenated Casey-Lee Bastian, B-A-S-T-I-E-N.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I get it all the time.
Schmallenberger.
Yeah.
That's uh-oh.
We had this last night.
Oh, no, last night it just gave us a really nasty taste.
It was that, and then Julie made the noise.
So hold on, look at that thing again. Hold on. Okay, wait. Try that one.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, no, that's the bottom, so we can go up to the top. Yeah.
Scroll up.
Cool. Ooh, kind of get crunched. But that's all right. Hi. Thanks for hanging there. Some of you will have seen this a little bit. We gave some of this presentation to the planning board 2 weeks ago or whatever. Heather was there. Jess, I believe, was there for a while. Although I don't know if you stuck around and saw
I
this.
probably didn't. I missed that then. Yeah.
Essentially, there's a group of consultants working with, it's an MVP-funded project. So if you're familiar with the Municipal Vulnerability Program, Preparedness Program by the state, so it's state-funded, through the town of Ayer. Alan is the sort of administrator in charge of it, but it's through the town of Ayer and Devens, the Devens Enterprise Commission. Sort of a regional project working together with Ayer and Devens for lots of good reasons, to design and install what is referred to as pocket forests. I'm going to describe this thing. You're going to have some technical questions. Casey Lee is going to answer. It's a sort of a longish project. We are currently in the first year. This project is a 1-year project. We will apply for a second project, which will be a 2-year project, which is a little bit bigger and has some other pieces. First year, so this year, the project is to, it has 2 parts. Let's see if I can, no, we'll leave it here. One part is to sort of essentially design and install a little forest, a mini forest, near the train station, right over there. The second part is to identify sites in Ayer and Devens to do this that would be beneficial for the town, the communities, and the neighborhoods. And so there's the first part is sort of chugging along. We haven't really gotten too involved, although maybe some. Have we started ordering materials?
Yeah, I'm buying things.
You're buying things, right?
What kind of things?
Some things.
Irrigation, plants, soil supplements.
Yeah.
What's the minimum size that you would consider?
I like probably no less than something that's 20 by 50, just for order of magnitude.
20 by 50
20 by
yards?
feet.
Okay.
So pretty small.
So quarter
Yeah.
acre.
Quarter acre's nice.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Are these pieces publicly owned or are they private? Are you going to buy them?
So that's a great question. Let's hold on to that thought for just a minute, until we get into the issue, because while there is, and let's sort of get to the thing. While there's an initial pilot going on, right, and that's what Casey is talking about. Okay, we're ordering materials, we're starting to do things, there will be a design process, a public design process to actually do that. But some stuff has to be ordered early because it has a big lead time.
Fall discounts.
Thinking ahead. But we're also looking for the sites to do this in the next part of the project. So we're probably looking for a total of 5 or 6 sites. And you can see that happens right as we get. This year is really we do some site visits. We've got a couple of different things going on to gather information about what would be good. We have spoken to Jonathan Katz and the planning board, and a number of residents, as well as a number of folks in the Devens, both from the Devens Enterprise Commission as well as residents and others involved in Devens in various ways, including folks at UNAC and a number of different settings. That idea is to really gather information about where would be really valuable to do this. I can tell you that one of the places that has popped up is the back of the parking lot at St. Mary's, where the idea is to build a little bit more of a dense buffer between the parking lot and the community and the tracks. That's the kind of place we're thinking about. That is not public land, that is private land. I mean, it's owned by the church. So in that sense, it could be private property in different settings, but it has to be possible to get to do it. And everybody has to agree, and it can't be something that's encumbered in different ways.
Legally binding agreements.
Yeah, right, yes. So
from a site selection perspective, is there a target distance from the nearest other pocket park or pocket forest or already treed areas?
Good question. Okay, well, hold on. First,
if you want.
let me just note the difference between a pocket park and a pocket forest.
One is trees and one does not.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pocket forests are not really designed to inhabit.
Okay.
Right? They're really designed as
To just exist.
as habitat, as forest buffer,
Right.
things like that. There is some ability to inhabit, and depending on how it gets designed, and that's great. But it's really not a play place, right? Okay, now you want to answer that question? It's a great question.
Strategically, about selections and locations, the way we want to think of this as sort of a nodal hotspot for select species to help re-diversify areas around it and to connect things into your community forest. So what we're looking at are your street trees, your byways, your drainage ditches, and how that's working. Because the biggest value in pocket forests, when they're set up in the right places and connected across your community forest, besides sort of the air quality, cooling, those habitat values, is that they can be feeders and supports to the larger forests that surround the community. This being New England, almost everything, was nearly cleared entirely within the last 100 years. And what's there now doesn't necessarily represent a completely robust community. So we're looking at ways to sort of put the lever in the right spot and start an avalanche of healthier habitats.
Okay. And then quickly going back to your 20 by 50 minimum, quarter acre, does it need to be a certain width with which to be sustainable and survive? So I mean, if we went to, instead of 20 by 50, if we went to 5 by 200, is that still useful or not
That's
so much?
still useful, and it has more, the sort of that minimum module is more to do with what's easy to implement and what's easy to manage in one establishment cycle.
Right.
So when I can get a group of volunteers for a day, I can plow through I can do about a quarter acre. Much more than that, and they start drifting off and getting tired, and 2 or 3 of us are left at the end of the day.
Like the homesteaders of the past, like you get to keep as much land as you can plow
Exactly.
and chill within a day, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And then we build modules off of that.
Another part of that is that, like with this St. Mary's, the potential St. Mary's site, in order to have an effect on air quality, you actually need about 30 feet.
Okay.
And so less than that, it's not going to have the filtration and characteristics that you would ideally like.
I guess I was thinking
that gives
more-
you, that's
I was
one
thinking
of the
more maybe
criteria.
a damage perspective, let's say, with regards to wind,
Sure.
So we all know what happens when, they clear cut into a subdivision, or just build a subdivision, and now all the
Right.
trees that were being supported by the surrounding friends
Yeah.
are no longer there, everything falls down, so.
Yeah.
And a lot of this also has to do with the picking, there's a pretty sophisticated process of trying to think about the species composition and growth over time to, as Casey Lee was saying, to really support the health of the surrounding areas, surrounding pieces of forest and surrounding trees. And so there's this sort of thought of sort of a term that Casey Lee, I like to quote Casey Lee because he sounds really smart.
Just sounds?
It just sounds.
What are you going to quote?
What?
Go for it.
The concept of refugia, and that we can use these as areas that hold the species composition because we'll pay attention to them and manage them, and we put it together correctly with the soil amendments that are appropriate that can support the spreading of that species composition to other parts of the forest areas.
I'll stop on you, sorry.
That's all right. This doesn't say much more than that.
Got a question.
fine.
Oh, you got a question? Yeah, all right, go for
Have
it.
you figured out how to deal with Phragmites yet?
The one that I'm working on in Everett was entirely Phragmites
Be
when we
totally
started.
cool with figuring that one out, because it's, except for mechanical methods, I don't know any other way to deal.
I've been testing out some clever tricks and they seem to be working. I might share that with you later if we get that far, and
I
that could be
explained
one
to
of our
somebody what
slides.
Phragmites do the other day, and they were like, really? I go, yeah, but they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. right.
Like blue stripe. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then that's,
It's encouraging news.
it's, it's one of those things, we do these little, we're sort of proposing these little projects. They're not very big. They're pretty community driven, and they're gonna have some effect. It's not gonna solve everything, but they will have some effect. And we're looking for a lot here, right? We're looking for environmental support and benefits like air quality and water quality. You were talking about the ponds, sort of how you think about water quality and water flow. That's probably a thought about criteria for locations that we probably want to hold on to. It's like where might they have the maximum effect on water flow and water quality. And
Putting that I work on them largely based on leveraging the species for habitat support and balance. We're looking largely to sort of base level species, macroinvertebrates, so the very small creatures that do our work in soil, and there's a whole science class that I won't get into for them, but pollinators and birds. And a lot of the researchers who are doing the bits and pieces on those, it's like they all have part of the elephant, and when we look at them and cross them, we can go, here's how we can actually use some of those to leapfrog forward into healthier things.
Mm-hmm.
And the surprising part is that, and it doesn't necessarily fit the common psychology of pristine nature and useful and good nature is something that happens out there, away from us. No, what we're finding is some of the fastest moving vehicles are best off done right in town.
vehicles for, not vehicles.
Yes, what I mean. Vehicles
for change.
for stability. Things like birds as an immune system for controlling the boom and bust of pest groups, for pollinators for moving the genetic code so that our trees can adapt and migrate with changes to climate, changes to weather.
So it's kind of like a little bit of a acupuncture, sort of little acupuncture point. And so that kind of gets us to, so there's sort of a little description of, okay, here's what we actually have to do on the sites. Great. I'm just gonna jump to I'll give you these slides, you can have them.
Well, I just do this.
She does the notes, man.
Yeah, I know.
The minutes, excuse me.
We're so several things. We're really looking for sites. We have a kind of a weird deadline for sites. We have a meeting coming up on next week.
Yeah, November 16th.
Yeah.
What's that?
November 16th.
November 16th.
Upstairs, Great Hall.
Upstairs, yeah.
6 p.m. or 7 p.m.?
6.
It says
6
6.
Yeah, it's at 6.
I believe I'm running that meeting, so I think it's at 6. So at that meeting, we're hoping to have some sites that we can talk about and we can talk to residents about, and both of Ayer and Devon's, and to start to think about, okay, which of these might be most valuable, and to seed people's thoughts for, where else might be good. And so we're really trying to ask widely for ideas about sites. And this is one of those things that the Conservation Commission probably has a pretty good handle on. And
We'll feed you criteria.
And I understand that the audience for Conservation Commission meetings probably also has a pretty good hand on it. See?
Don't go by us.
Don't go.
Beth's not here.
He's just trying to get warm.
Yeah.
It's too early-
Beth's in pretty deep. I can
It's
tell
too
you.
early to leave the house at this point.
So anyway, that's sort of our first thing, and partially it's because in order to apply for the next round of grants, in order to fund the actual planting, the design and planting of those larger number of sites, we have to have the sites figured out, nailed down, and agreed to by the middle end of March. So we have this, and we got to do some work on them to understand what permitting is going to require and things like that, if there's permitting and stuff like that. So there's some screwing around to figure out that it's going to take a little bit of time. So we kind of have to move fast in order to get them determined. So that's probably it. Questions?
What are is it a variety of species of trees and bushes and things? I mean, fast growing, slow growing?
A mix of them in different combinations for different values. So we've been
And
looking-
it's somewhat site specific too,
Yeah.
right? Keeping in mind. So go ahead.
I could start listing things, but I can say,
System.
they'll have things that we have studied out and found that provide either maybe more pollen or more seed mass, more proteins, things that provide more nectar, things that will do some phyto or myco remediation in the soils when we end up in places like next to the train tracks. Others that have enhanced air scrubber quality, like sycamore or red cedars, things we can get up in those areas, and others that are like primary larval hosts, white oak, black cherry, things like that.
Ooh. I hadn't even thought about indigenous use, and there's a whole other topic there.
They could also include food forests as
Yeah,
well. There are a lot
right.
of these that can be very forageable.
Yeah. Would it be a good area for beehives?
Some of the things that we tend to include in them are features built for native bees.
Yep.
So we'll do snag trees pre-drilled for carpenter bees, mason bees. We'll do in-ground boxes for the bombus varieties, things that, like our bumblebees, get predated out by almost everybody, but they're the most valuable pollinator we have. One of the problems they get is they'll pick a spot in the lawn and get sucked up, dug up by skunks, or taken over by yellow jackets. So there are some things we can do to a house in the ground for them that protects them that way, and a bunch of other types of habitat features that we tuck in.
If you go into an area that's like, if you pull up pavement, that dirt's pretty dead, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't have a healthy fungus and it doesn't have healthy soil. Do you have a sense of how long it takes for that to come back? If you were to plant trees, you don't introduce anything like fungus into the ground, do you? I mean,
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of that, and we have a specialist RDG, regenerative design group, specializes in regeneration for soils, both agricultural, and they're working with us on native soils. And my wetland soil scientist is off in Geneva right now, telling them what for with the COP pieces and whatnot for the Ramsar convention. So we've got some of the best minds in the world when it comes to soils and how to restore and repopulate.
And part of the plan is, especially in situations like that where we're pulling up, and the soil underneath pavement is not necessarily dead. There's, if you look at, this is in this classic way, you look at NRCS soil carbon maps, right? Anything that's paved, they say there is no carbon. That's not the case. There is carbon in those soils. and it's probably equivalent to the carbon in some agricultural soils, which tend to be kind of wiped out from carbon. And so there is a sort of, within the planning process, there's an active soil rebuilding that happens in the process getting ready for planting.
And we may actually target places where we go like, wow, this is terrible. Like, this is an F-grade landscape, and we can get it up to a C in 30 years, which can then make itself and the things around it up to an A or a B in 100 years. Sort of the speeding up the process in the other direction.
And oddly, we've been working together. This is our third project. Third project we've been working together over 4 or 5 years. And we actually started this out of the Healthy Soils Action Plan for the state, which Lenan and RDG worked on, how long ago was that? 3 years ago? 3.5 years ago? Still sitting on the secretary's desk, waiting to be signed off. How long has Baker got? They claim any day now, but that work, one of the things that really drove us out of that work was this vision of taking areas that had potential for high carbon and high soil health, but that had been degraded, and recognizing those and then working to upgrade that soil because it has the potential. There are plenty of soils where there's no potential for that.
So in the site selection process, I guess here in town, are we focused on the urban areas, or is it anywhere basically?
It's pretty much anywhere, but we're focused on, so the criteria there's some very specific criteria of can we do it there and things like, who owns it, what the permitting, is there, somebody that suggested.
Concom involved,
Is it feasible?
Yeah, is Concom involved?
Is Conservation Commission involved?
Exactly.
NOI,
It's like, if Concom's involved, we're not, no.
And third, is it in a strategic
Well,
location?
wetlands, not forests.
Yeah, we're trying to stay away from wetlands. But there are forest wetlands all over this place. So the criteria really are: is it feasible? Does it bring value to a neighborhood? And that's really high. And then the third is it a place where the action can change the trajectory of a piece of property? So those are probably the big ones. There's other smaller ones. We've got some other material in there.
Like an example of that sort of cultural value as opposed to and strategic location value. I'm doing work right now in downtown Hudson along that section of the Assabet that passes through. And the reason it's useful to work there is that it's a pinch point relative to some of the negative species that could be moving up and down, but it's also a spot where I can concentrate a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of visibility and get a bunch of volunteers to show up and do something at a scale and in a location where I can identify the boundaries. So we like to identify the boundaries of something and then the steps that it will go through to add value elsewhere.
Do sites that you're selecting typically need to be essentially cleared to grass or shrubs or whatever, or can they already have mature trees on the property?
They can have mature plantings, but usually I'm looking for something where there's a reason to fix it.
Okay.
So, like I'm on the Malden, and we are taking Phragmites and replacing that with forests, portions of meadow.
They can hold their own against the Phragmites.
How do you protect these areas for the long haul?
Yeah,
You
that's
talk
a great
about 100
question.
years. How do you do that?
Take it. The program includes hiring local students as monitors and maintainers through the establishment, and the front end of that is planning things out so that a lot of things, once they are strong enough, I don't care that there's some invasive species in there eventually, that seed is pretty much everywhere. But when you go out into stronger, healthier habitats, you go, like that seed is everywhere, but the invasive species are thin or weak here, if they're present at all. The places we find invasive species are places where we've damaged the soil, or damaged the plant and fungal communities. So when we can get those up and functioning on their own, the goal is for us to not have to do a whole lot more work and to let different versions of here's how to not maintain things, because there are some broken ideas about how we should be maintaining things that we're sorting out in a couple of the projects to kind of get that out for DPWs, maintenance, communities, homeowners.
I guess I didn't state my question.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
just gonna say, did that answer your
I
question?
heard a
Go
totally
ahead.
different question, but that's a great answer.
I
Oh,
mean, well, that's a good answer too, but
Do
I
it
was just
again.
wondering, how do you keep somebody from cutting this all down
Yeah,
in
okay.
75 years?
Right. Right, well, so the way you keep them from building a house is that the properties are owned by somebody who has agreed to do this. Eventually, they could cut it down, it's like the Catholic Church could decide, nope, we really actually want those parking spaces.
Okay, it's not protected forever.
It's not protected.
may be protected if we can get in a protected space.
That's right, so it might be a protected site that we use,
Mhm.
and that's,
That
where we
would,
have
that would increase its,
Right.
selection value.
And then the other is that we sort of set up a team to maintain and monitor it, which is a relatively low-key process. But the monitoring is kind of key. And so the monitoring is, depending on the situation and where it is, there'll be soil monitoring, there'll be plant and habitat and species monitoring that happens. And then there might be air quality monitoring, we'll see. We might be able to tie it into another project that's doing air quality monitoring.
The other thing we do is usually signage, and I've been working out interpretive trail markers to stick on things that give a name, little picture, and
It depends on how you spell it.
I
yeah,
was gonna say, if you need any help,
QR code that'll go through so
You
you
missed
can get
that.
an audio description of, or a link back to the websites that these connect with.
Yeah.
So
And there's a website that goes with all this that essentially lives with the town.
forest is good, but a forest that people are aware of and go, oh, that's why that's there. I want one of those in my backyard is even better, because if it's just us, we're doomed.
Anybody can plant one of these in their yard.
Any other questions, thoughts?
So I don't know if you're
Thousands of us that
familiar.
are meeting.
So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the other side of the bridge here, where it comes down, there happens to be a tree or two, and I think a pathway or two. Would something like that be useful to do?
That's one spot that's been discussed already.
Okay.
For the
Yeah.
group is over there. My big concern
Yeah,
is
the
I
opposite
think-
side of Zero
Yeah, and
Central.
my big concern, everything I look at is, the rotary intersection on the truck traffic on Westford Road. Those areas to me are very important, because my whole thought of this is whatever we can do to reduce carbon capture,
Mhm.
increase that, and or heat islands. So anything with a lot of pavement that we can do. Like I said, I found a fantastic graphic, and I cannot find it again, what the shade inside of under a tree is compared to the actual air temperature and asphalt
Oh, yeah.
temperature.
I've got that also.
We get tons of that.
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
It'll be
160 in asphalt, when it's 80 degrees up under a tree, it's like 76.
yeah.
Like, that's when I look at these things,
There's
that's
some
what I would
really
like to
nice
see.
work about how far that spreads too.
Yes.
It also
Yeah, I mean, if
extends
you
the
go down
life of the
Farnham
forest.
Road, all
We
through
can't
to
do
the
It does, and
Devon's
it,
area.
Cuts down on
it reduces.
its
so
VOC.
Yeah,
you can
and so there's some
use for-
spots in Devon's that
Yeah,
they're,
yeah.
Right there in front of all the reserve,
right,
Yep. spots, so.
And at this
Yeah.
time, we have so much train traffic and so much truck traffic going through, anything we can do to pull that carbon out of that air.
both the carbon and the particulate, yeah.
Yeah.
And so but in many ways, the impetus for this project is about sequestration. It's about carbon sequestration. But there's so many other benefits that come out of it that it's like, carbon sequestration kind of ends up not being the thing we talk about.
Mr. Tillotson, you had a question.
kind of a comment, kind of an observation, and maybe Mr. Mr. Newman would want to speak to it also. The town just voted $400,000 for the Ayer Commons project, which I believe you guys have a hand in putting things together over there. And the question I had is, are you looking for this for the open space and common space over there? I'm just curious. I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm a real big fan of what's going on over there. And I think getting the word out could be better, but I happen to, after our meeting with the planning board, I did a little bit of looking around your website and I saw Ayer Commons pop up. So I'm curious what you're doing over there. Because Ayer Commons is the flag property at 65 Fitchburg Road, as you all know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's,
there's
a lumbering activity that's been there for 50, 60 years.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, if I know, if I have this
It's the
correct-
NOAA project.
It's the NOAA project.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is where our worlds collide. We're actually, yeah, we're actually working on building on passive house for the passive house design criteria for that project. And I have proposed this for that project multiple times. It's kind of, they're a little on hold right now, what stuff's going on.
Understandably, I mean, they're now looking for first phase round funding through the Commonwealth,
Right.
which we won't know anything about till January
Exactly,
at this point.
yeah.
So
It's
and you
sort of
don't do a lot of
waiting.
work before then because there's not a lot of money for work.
Because you don't want to drop money into it.
Yeah.
But I have, seriously, when we looked at that project and then we got involved in this, I thought, oh, this is the perfect spot. It's like,
It's got some good opportunity.
Yeah.
You all know about 65 Fitchburg Road. It's pretty nice. And there's also a section that's going to end up in green space forever,
yeah.
which has a listed species on it.
Yes, firm.
So, yeah, well, that may be a problem.
Or an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So those kinds of things, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was just curious. I saw on the website. I'm wondering, are you thinking about it from the green side or from the housing side? But the housing side is also.
Well, the housing side is a great opportunity, provided the owner is up for it, right? In whatever form.
There's a lot of positive energy.
Yes, in whatever form that owner is up for it, you know.
Yeah.
It may be mandated at some level, or it may be restricted land use at some level, in which case this might be valuable, or it may be some other thing.
And for the Conservation Commission's edification, there is an easement for sewer across that property that's town owns.
We know.
Yeah.
I know you do. I just thought I'd put it on the record,
Right,
which gives us an opportunity to help the town do the right thing.
yeah. Yeah, so those kinds of things, I mean, those are a little trickier because we gotta figure it out and nail it down and get the agreement by the middle of March.
Yeah.
But
That one's
we're up
gonna
for
be
it.
way years from now.
I think that one's out in the future, but
Way in the future, yeah.
people are thinking about it, which is.
Well,
But if
we're
it's up on the
definitely-
map now,
Yeah.
then it can become a possibility in the future, and it's much easier to get funding. You can say, we have all these.
Oh, yeah, the state is totally up for funding this stuff down the line.
Yeah, and as we explained to the person who owns the shopping center that was built in 1942 across the street yesterday, that completing the last 60 feet of sidewalk, which then connects to 102 units for your supermarket.
Like, excuse me, yeah, right.
So we're thinking, sorry that you have your meetings, but we're pushing that.
Thinking
way
it as a
out for us.
system, yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of system thought is, I think, valuable for this across the board. Right? I mean, there are other settings where the advantages and benefits can play into something that is much bigger.
Do you have any questions or thoughts, George?
No,
You think it's a good idea?
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jess,
Great idea.
what do you want from us?
Nothing.
Your seal of approval
We,
will help.
we want
Just time.
We signed some RDAs.
Suck it up your time, baby. Sorry, I already got that. Your help thinking about locations. That's really what we want.
And get the word out of the meeting next, on Wednesday, the 16th
And then
at
the
6,
meeting next Wednesday.
upstairs.
Right.
I'll be there, just at the kindness of my heart. So that's the most important thing. It's my
It's
job.
very
It's fine.
kind.
I know, it's not. It's my job. I like this stuff. So that's the main purpose is we need to get the word out
of this project and the program, because it's community driven. The plantings are done by volunteers, the maintenance of these is done by volunteers. And your question of what if it gets cut down in 50, 75 years, well, if everybody knows about it and their children grew up going to it, and someone tries to cut that down, it'll be a whole thing. So the more involvement of the community we have, the more successful these will be,
Sure.
and the more they'll spread. There's only a handful of these projects currently in place in the country. It's very common in Europe. I found an article from National Geographic. There's 500 of these in the Netherlands. I mean, it's crazy how bad they go. They go up otherwhere. We're just starting it over here. Their benefits are extensive benefits. So the whole point of this is to get community development and community involvement, get the idea out there, and the more that people understand the benefits of a 5,000 square foot forest or 8,000 square foot forest, maybe they can look at it and go, oh, well, I have a fraction of that in my yard. What can I then do myself personally beyond what we're doing as a community on someone else's property or town land? Is my thought on this.
What's the event? When is it, or is it open to the public?
Yeah, it's Wednesday the 16th, in the Great Hall at 6. So on Wednesday.
So launching this whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah, Alan Minoy from the Community Development, if you look, he should probably have, I know on his Facebook page, he's had a few videos in the past week or two discussing some of these projects.
It's also listed, on the town website.
Yeah, it is on the town website, under the calendar,
Also, so one of my kids lives in London, and there's a smallish park, I don't know, maybe 5 acres, and they do have a strip of it that is totally wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We were just, did you go on the tour?
I sure did.
You did, okay.
Yeah,
So a bunch of folks just went on a tour in Cambridge of what's called the Milwaukee Forest, which is a version of this. And they're actually putting in a second one in a different.
And it was
and it's tiny. I mean, it's
tiny.
like,
it was. I want to say that the second
size
one
of
they
this
were
room.
building was
Yeah.
probably the size of this room.
It's
Really
probably twice
between
the
a
size.
grass section, you had a rain garden almost here, walking path, then there was this and street.
Yeah.
And my
Oh, we
question,
didn't get
it
to
was
the
right
other-
next to
yeah.
the street. And my question on that was, what do they do with snow removal and or salt? And the town of Cambridge doesn't use salt; they use all brine, so that wouldn't be an issue as far as killing the forest with salt. So I was like, oh, that's fantastic.
That's a relatively new thing.
It is a relatively new thing.
It
hopefully
I wasn't
creeps this
paying total attention. Did you answer the question of is it private or public, or it's whatever?
It can be
works?
either, as long as we can get agreement from the owner to do
So
it.
you're not buying land?
We're not buying land. At least, I don't think we're buying land. Yeah,
And it's already-
it's kind of too hard to do.
Okay, and if it's already wild, you don't need to?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. We don't need to go mess with existing forests.
And the smallest amount is how much, as big as?
What did we say, it was like 20
Say,
by 40?
A
something like
quarter
that?
yeah, quarter acre
Quarter
is
acre.
probably
Quarter
our
acre.
target
Yeah.
as a minimum.
What's the maximum?
What's the maximum? That's a great question.
The world.
Well, there are some things relative to not a maximum but a target.
Yeah.
Would be looking at our built environment, and we've got enough statistics where we're seeing where species start to table off and stabilize, and where the quantity of species drop off or where we start to lose them. So we're looking at things like a 35% canopy cover over like the net volume of your space. And inside that, there are things like the content, like making sure that we've got like a 70% of that being native and valuable. If we're all ailanthus trees with knotweed underneath, we're in serious trouble, and our agriculture ends up in serious trouble. But if our built environments and towns are a source of health, and those pollinators, birds as an immune system, then our farms are safer and our forests are safer, which means our air and water get safer. So,
So
all community.
So the answer, the answer to that is, for this project, we can't get probably over a half acre, because we're gonna run into trouble actually doing it.
Oh, you meant the practical answer.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my job. I do the practical answer. He gives you the real answer.
Well, I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that
Going out on a
we
limb?
support you.
Going out
Well, thank
on
you.
a limb?
Yeah, did you catch that?
You know. Get to the root of the problem. Yeah.
Barking up the wrong tree here.
See?
Don't get her going, please.
I'd like to make like leaf and get out of here.
Yeah, speaking of going, we get to spend more on actually designing these forests the sooner we stop talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we will.
Anyway, thank
we will-
you.
Oh, you're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming
the
by
info.
and not.
And it's,
We'll
yeah,
be
it's a
here.
pleasure to get the chance to talk to everybody. We've been having a really good time meeting people and everybody's fired up. It's fun.
Good, good. Well, thank you so much.
So
for
come to the
coming.
meeting on Wednesday and then
I
we'll
will.
have a whole bunch of other stuff to do too.
We will.
Yeah, just
It's
to
at
start.
6.
And I need my little,
Yeah, I would
Key
be
that
there, but
device back.
CBA's at 6.
Just, did you just pull it out?
yeah, where is it? It's right
Yeah,
there.
it'll go beyond, yeah. So,
Oh, there it is.
yeah.
Approach the Mondo with great care. That we all-
So we did used to have that nice little
Don't touch it.
pocket forest over on Central Ave
Great to meet you. Yeah.
that got chopped down. Yeah, it's like-
That was the first one that came to my mind, honestly.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it
What's
used to
that?
go, the little forest we had just a couple of blocks from here on Central Ave.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, but you'd go up over the bridge and you'd see this big swath of tree trunks and trees.
It's nice.
That area is a site that's been discussed, but what falls into an issue when you get too close to the railroad is the chemicals they use. It's
All right,
very-
so we're gonna,
So-
conservation updates?
Conservation updates.
Conservation
Let's get
updates.
going.
Okay,
Agenda.
very good, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any updates? So, like I said, I was on vacation this week, so not much has gone on this week. Week prior, we had gone out to Cambridge to go visit a couple of these pocket forests that they had done there. One of the stages being planting it, we went out on a Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah.
And it was being planted that Saturday, so they were just getting soil remediations and they're done.
Excuse me. Can you guys take that out?
guys, thought your meeting was
No,
no,
we're
no.
not. Sorry, thank you.
And we get to see one that was already planted, and at the stage for I think they planted this spring, so it's been there about 6 months or so. And it was very interesting to see the different stages of plants and types that they had planted. There was no ground cover, everything was just shrubs and then trees, and they were fairly small. While we were there, at least 3 people had stopped to notice it that were in that park that day. It was one of those warm days that we had. So it does have a lot of community interest, which is it's a very good positive on that. Had gone out to Air Solar 2 last week. There had been no work. We don't know if there's anything that's gone on this past week.
I just want to quickly go back to what
Yes.
you were just talking about Cambridge. So
Yeah.
I guess though I'm also wondering, there's a vast difference between Air and Cambridge.
There is a vast difference in Air and Cambridge.
So there's
No,
probably
100%.
not, even though they get turkeys all over the place, there's probably not a lot of trees there to begin with. Again, from the last time I've been in
Oddly
Cambridge.
enough, we had met with the urban forest manager for the city of Cambridge.
Mm.
They plant something like, I don't know, we wanted to say 5,000 or 10,000 trees a year, street trees. I mean, you think, oh, it's a city. There is quite a few street trees along every street. So there is quite a bit of trees. As far as like a forest goes, yeah. I mean, there was quite a few.
But that is why I
pocket-
asked the question about like what's the proximity to other things, because you don't really have to go too far. I mean, even right here to be, quickly into a bunch of trees. Even though I know we got some
Yeah, you
lighted
don't.
areas,
And
but
the whole
you know.
point with this is you don't have to go far until you get to a street line of trees or the forest here, vegetated land.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you look at, like where the first one's going at the train depot, what do you have on downtown? There's nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
go down West Main Street.
Go on
it's
West
like
Main Street, there's
disgusting.
nothing. You go, and that's the whole point of this. Like my whole point when I think of this is the truck traffic going from the Rotary to Devon's or through Harvard or down 110. what do we have planted there? Unfortunately, we can't do anything with the rotary. I wish we could, but that's a stormwater center for the state. But that, to me, if it wasn't a fantastic place to put one of those, because you have all of that traffic going on there,
Yeah.
and it's just such a secluded little spot, like that would be great.
Right.
So that's the whole point of these, is to look at where are we missing this vast items of things, where are people living, where could we put these? Many cities, in Cambridge, they have pocket forests, or parks. I grew up in Fitchburg, every neighborhood has a park, and a swing set and a playground. Well, in taking that away, instead of having, or on top of that, you have these little forests in there as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, then that's the whole point, is to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the heat island
The
thing
heat
is
island,
really,
effect, that's
really
my
important.
big thing, is if everyone complains, the world's getting hotter.
Yeah, and
Found
like
a-
you said with the rotary, probably the concept there, at least what I first threw out was, okay, so we can't do it on the
No,
rotary.
we can't do it in the rotary.
But
there's areas around there that we definitely
right about
could.
the property,
Oh, yeah.
the liquor store,
The liquor store, you have, go to
car
Warren
wash.
Road, you have all that there.
I mean, just look at the trees they just took down, unfortunately.
Right.
They just took down, unfortunately, to get the
Yeah.
power over to,
Yeah.
American Superconductor,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, it's
Sorry,
100%.
I was
These are
like,
areas
why
that you
did they
look
cut that
at.
stuff
It's,
down?
you have, Sandy Pond past, McDonald's going towards Central. You have that whole area too. You look at that. Yeah, you have houses there, but there's vast areas where it's like someone went through and clear cut this. That these items would, and again, they're not gigantic.
Right.
That's the whole point. Like, and I think the flyer they made up is a little annoying, but they put it's on the town's Facebook page for the thing. It says mini forest and it's pocket forest. It's actually pocket forest, but you do think it's miniature. But the benefits that they have are, it doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference as far as water quality and air quality and temperature. It doesn't take a whole forest. It takes 30 trees or 10, 15 trees and some shrubs to make that big of a difference, that you would be like, hey, my yard used to flood. Oh my God, it doesn't do that anymore. You have that retention that it holds it, so.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, and then I said air solar, they hadn't had any work last week when I went out. I don't know what had gone on. This week, I had checked emails. Rohit had been sick last week, so I don't think there was any, he said there was no work. I haven't heard any update from him as far as what had gone on this week. I did drive by after I went out to look at the houses on Washington Street because there was rumor that there was going to get pavement done. It hadn't been done as of last Friday. I don't know if anything happened there this week. And that's about it.
Okay.
I'm really excited for this forest thing. I've been doing I'm doing a lot of research on it because it's something I'm.
Member updates?
It's climate change.
Just to underscore the fire department on the boards.
Yes, I will get on that. I already have it, a note on
Yeah.
my calendar to let, about the gate of it that needs to get closed up and.
I was going through the real estate listings online and noticed the Hudwood property was listed.
The which property?
Hudwood, on Hudwood Ave,
Where's that?
Yeah.
Oh,
behind the assisted living.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know, the Community Preservation Committee was all out on that at one point.
CPC did have it appraised, and I think it came in at about $750,000, and they're asking like 1.2 million.
Yeah.
So municipality, they'd have to come down before we could consider it.
But you could offer. You could offer the appraised.
They're not interested.
They're not interested.
Yeah. So, at the moment at least.
Yep.
So, but that has been discussed. It was brought up, and also the property, I've heard, kitty corner to the town beach,
Yep.
that is potentially
The
up for
cabin?
sale now. Yeah. But
It's for
any,
sale now?
I think, that was mentioned at CPC the other night.
I haven't seen a sign, but.
I haven't seen a sign yet, but it might something, but,
Okay.
and then somebody said, I think Beth said, CPC, if further discussions of either one should probably be done in executive session, if there was possibility of moving forward. So, which at the moment there's not, so, yeah.
Anything else?
I forgot to mention the tree policy that I had sent to you guys the last meeting.
Yep.
I had reached out to the town, the agent in Dedham, where I first kind of borrowed their policy from, to find out why it wasn't a regulation, how they're enforcing it in their items on that. I finally heard back from their agent last week. She stated that they do want to move forward with it as far as a regulation. They haven't done so yet. It is basically more or less just a policy that they do tell homeowners that they'd like to see done. They have had a lot of pushback on it for developers, but they are getting the tree plantings done and or the shrubs if there's the homeowner says they don't have enough room. They do want to go through with a tree bylaw, but they are afraid it's not going to pass. I do want to they said they did borrow that from the town of Concord, from their conservation resources office, so I want to get in touch with them and find out what they have on the record. I do think this is something, though, that we should move forward with and just do as a policy for now, and adopt it at the next meeting, until I can iron out the details on how to make it a regulation in that whole process. But I think just until we can get all that ironed out, I don't want to hold it up. If we can say, well, we did adopt it on record, we do have it as a policy, please do so. I did meet with Zach Flagg on a property over on Shirley Street, is it? Over on Grove Pond, and she was taking down 3 trees. And I mentioned to him, like, okay, as part of the new policy, we have it that if it's over 6 inches, we want to leave at least 6 feet of stag for habitat and purposes. And he said, okay, I can do that on these 2 trees. This one I can't because it's leaning too much, but I can leave you 3. I said, okay, sounds great. It was no problem. And it was a dead, dying tree, so we're not gonna replace it. It'll probably be wet. So, and they're leaving that stag. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be too hard on a small property owner's perspective. It's when we get to the larger developments that we'll run into some issues. But I want to get it on and then work through the whole thing. Where it might take a meeting or 2 to get there, that we get to the regulations in January, but we'll get it on there. I just got to figure out the processes and see the other towns that had it and see what kind of issues they're having. Because if the town of Dedham is having issues getting it passed, where they have a whole sustainability resiliency committee, I'm wondering how. I mean, they're a little bit tighter of a community too, so I want to get it as a policy just to see how we go, and then see if I can get it to the regulation in a meeting or 2 following that.
So you're suggesting go on a policy that we adopt that basically is a recommendation to homeowners with the hopes to
get to the regulation sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Which makes me think that it's like in the spring, we did 1 round of regulations. We should also think about other things.
There's a couple other ones that I would like to do too.
That we would like to do, because it's all one public hearing. We can't just do it here and there.
We could, but I want to see it as a part of the regulations that the colored plans be mandatory.
Yeah.
It makes them easier to read.
Yeah.
I mean, I color them anyway when they come in, it makes it easier for me to read it there. If it came in colored, it'd be nice. And it's a small thing, but it makes it easier.
Sure.
All right, good, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
That's it? Got anything?
No.
Nope. Mark?
I think I got to get 2 more signs made.
Yeah.
I guess. That was...
I swear when that message came in, I remember I asked, I don't know, was one of you, or I asked somebody in town, and they're like, oh no, yeah, it's spelled 2 different ways. Okay, because they didn't tell me what it was spelled wrong. It's spelled wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. So I asked somebody, they're like, oh no, it has 2 different spellings. It's fine. Okay.
I think the one that we were aware of was sometimes it's FLANANG.
Yeah.
So
or
I think
FLANN. Yeah, there's
Like shenanigans?
Yeah. Shenanigans. Yeah.
Well, how's it spelled on the USGS?
Flanagan. Well, FLANNAGAN.
That's what we should go with.
Yeah, but apparently we have FLANNIGAN.
I'm surprised only one
I know I got a
person
picture of
noticed
the
it.
thing here, but...
I'm surprised only one person noticed it.
Yeah.
Well, this is like me.
Put a sticker.
I'm a bad speller. Bad speller.
Oh, I sent an email today, and I'm like, how do you spell reluctant?
Thank
How do you
goodness.
spell what?
Yeah, reluctant.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when I emailed back the agent in Denham, the commission's reluctant to just have a policy, you guys rather see regulations. I'm like, how do you spell reluctant? Like, it's a fancy word, I don't know if I can spell it. Bartman's like, R-L, I'm like, okay, we got R-E-L.
Darn, there's a picture of me in front of a misspelled slide.
Can I see?
Oh, man.
How did we not see that? Oh, yeah.
Again, as far as I'm concerned, it's spelled correctly. I
Yeah.
had no idea that it was even supposed to
Yeah.
not be that, but
Yeah, I thought it was that way as well.
I don't know.
Barry, how was it? How do you spell Flanagan?
Not with an I.
He spells
Dummy.
It, he spells it Fletcher's anyways.
Yeah, that's right. It's Fletcher's, right? Yeah. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously.